Good afternoon, everyone. Please find your seats, take your seats. I expect that we'll have a few others coming in even after we start. I'm thrilled that we have this great participation today from all of our the different aspects of our court system, from our defense lawyers and our court staff to our prosecutors and also members of state law enforcement and task forces. We are really thrilled to have you today. I am extremely honored to introduce to you Professor Armando Solorzano, who has been the head of the Chicano Studies Department at the University of Utah since 2006. I have the honor and unexpected pleasure of meeting Dr. Solorzano when he conducted a workshop at the NAMI state conference held a few months ago. And I was told by one of its students, you must come with me so you can hear this amazing presentation, and I certainly was not disappointed. And Dr. Solorzano has been at the University of Utah in its Family and Consumer Studies and Ethnic Studies Department since 1998?
Yes, 1990.
1990, all right, I missed that, sorry. And let me just give you a little bit of overview. He received his BA from the University of Guadalajara, Mexico in 1976, an MA from Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts in liberal arts in 1978, an MA from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in Madison, Wisconsin in philosophy in 1985, an MA from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in sociology in 1986, and a Ph.D. from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in sociology in 1990. A really remarkable background to also include receipt of several teaching awards, including in 2004, he received the 2004 Governor's Award on the Humanities. 2 years later, the Latinos Press in Utah recognized Dr. Solorzano as one of the distinguished Latinos of the year. In 2008, his photographic exhibit granted him the award as the best political art exhibit in the state. He has also published several books, the most recent one being We Remember, We Celebrate, We Believe, Latinos in Utah, that was published by the University of Utah Press in 2014. Most of his publications are bilingual and cover issues of religion, immigration, education, civil rights, and gender participation in the Beehive State. He has presented more than 40 academic papers in professional organizations and 170, now 171 presentations in local communities and radio and television. Presently, he has a joint appointment at the University of Utah in the Department of Family and Consumer Studies and Ethnic Studies. He is working on 4 books to commemorate the Dignity March in Utah and on themes that will help the Latinos to recover their traditions and identity. Dr. Solorzano.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this invitation. Just listening to your presentation, I don't think my mom will recognize me. But here we are. I'm very honored to share with you a little bit of information. I'm being a little bit ambitious of what I want to do, but I will concentrate on what is essential. I should tell you that the information I'm going to present is controversial, because anything about minorities is controversial. But I will invite your participation, your questioning, and to make this a very active and a very dialogical very in a way that everybody can participate. Let me tell you what happened 8 days ago in Vermont. Senator Joe Benning, a Caledonian County Republican, filed a bill on behalf of the students Angela Cubitt, who proposed that Vermont add to its English language motto, freedom and unity, one in Latin. And it goes, Stella Quarta Decima Frugali, which means the 14th state shines bright. So the student and the senator wants to add a Latin sentences to the logo. 15 minutes later, on television stations, radio stations, and news media, the people reacting, saying, we don't want to do anything with immigration. You know where it's coming from. People understood that Latin, the Latin language, was referring to Latinos, to undocumented immigration. So we don't want to do anything with it. So at the end of this proposal, the senator said with a big smile, maybe people, someday will understand that there is a difference between Rome and Mexico. Thank you again for allowing me to be with you, and hopefully we are going to be addressing these issues of language. These issues are not very sensitive. And as you will see in my presentation, I will hesitate to say some words that, again, brings a lot of emotions to the people. This is what I'm planning to do. I don't know if I have the time, otherwise you have to invite me again. I will talk a little bit about demographics, about the Latino population, both at the national level and in the state of Utah. Then I will move a little bit, just I'm going to touch on the historical backgrounds on Latinos in Utah so you can understand where this population is coming from and why it's reclaiming its place in this wonderful state. I'll also look at the issue of immigration and the impact in the state of Utah. I'll move talking about the issues of education. I have planned to do a presentation on the criminal justice system in Utah. I do have a lot of information, but I said, no, they are going to teach me, and I'm here to teach you. So I'm very humble. I will admit it, but certainly it's fascinating what we have collected in the last 5 years in terms of the relationship between the criminal justice and the community in the Beehive State. I would like to address also the cultural divide between the East and the West, the misperceptions and the effort that the Latino community are doing to bring the West Side as a very dynamic, multicultural, multi-diverse, polylingual, the real picture of what they think America should be looking at in the next 20 years. I will end it up with a definition of who are we anyway. People doesn't know how to call us, and I will provide some terms so we can together see if we can make sense of this. Let me talk about the minority population in the United States. And this is very important because in order to have a conversation, we need to have some background, some data, some information. The way it looks today, 72% of the population are, again, here are words, I don't know, Caucasians, but I know other people call it white people, other people call it Anglo-Americans. I'm sorry my language offended you, but it's not clear. Because if I say Caucasian, you know what Caucasian is. The Caucasians are the mountains in Russia. And I don't believe you guys came from Russia. And if you do, hey, welcome to this wonderful experiment, this society. 72% are, let's say, white. Then we have about 13%, 12% of the population being Latinos, 12.5 being African Americans, or the black population, about 4% Asian Americans, and we are in Utah Pacific Islanders, and about 1%, 0.8% of the population in the United States being Native American. That's how it looks like in the nation. And this is very important because if you ask the people, oh, how many Latinos are in the United States? 65%? They are taking over the territory? No, we are only 13%. Okay, we are not that much. What I want you to show, it's fascinating. We are expecting in 30 years that the Caucasians or the white people to be the minority in the United States in terms of numbers. This is how the population looks like, and I just referred to it a minute ago. This is how it's going to be looking like. Can you hear me if I move? Yeah, you know, I need to talk with my body, otherwise I don't know. Oh, that will be helpful. If you look at, is it working? I press here, I assume. Oh, terrific. Thank you. If you look at in, let's see, 25 years from now, the white people will be 49% of the total population in the United States, will be the minority. There are going to be less white people than people of color. Then we have, in 25 years, Latinos will be about 25% of the population. African Americans or the black people will be about 16% of the population. Asian Americans about 10%, and 1% of the Native American population. Fascinating, because nobody wanted to talk about. We knew that this was going to happen, that the Caucasian population will be the minority. Why do you think this is happening? In our studies, there are two reasons. One is, and again, I apologize for my language because I don't have any other one. The first reason is the fertility of white women. White women are not having children. Okay? It's called the fertility strike. White women are in a strike. They are not having children. If you look at the statistics, Anglo-Americans, or white families, they only have 1.2 children per family. And in order to replace the population, you need at least 2 children, correct? So if you are having only one, you are shrinking the population by 50%. And this is what's happening here. White women are not having children. And that will be another invitation, another hour to talk about why white women are not having children, mainly because white women are working. Okay? I'm very surprised that there are more women working in the U.S. labor force than men. 54% of the U.S. labor force is represented by women, only 44% by men. And that patterns go all over. At the University of Utah, 57% of the population are women. 43% are men. We need to reinvent ourselves where we are going. That is one reason. Again, if you have any observation, I will be delighted to hear your points of view, because this is what these presentations are about, to get a better understanding, to be prepared for what is going to happen. Okay? And pretty soon, and in fact, already happened in Utah, and I will address that in a minute. Second issue, the issue on immigration. Since the year 1970, there is a big shift in immigration patterns in the United States. In the past, it was mainly European and Protestant. Okay? Since 1980, it is mainly Mexican, Central American, and Catholic. Fascinating. Okay? Because people argue that immigration became an issue in the United States only in the last 30 years because immigration has a color. I dispute that, and I respect the people who believe that it is the main issue. But certainly it is reflected in the patterns of demographics here. And why is that? Because people from Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Pacific Islanders, their families have more children than us. What do I mean? Well, I give you an example. Tongan families in Utah, on average, have 7 children, on average. Compare that to 1.2 of the rest of the population. People still argue that LDS families are the largest families in the nation. That is not true. LDS families, they only have 3.3 children per family. Then you have Latino families who have 5 children per family. So this minority population, this new wave of immigrants, are having children. And then the question is, why? And that will be another invitation. Yeah, because otherwise we will not move fast. Again, if you have any contribution, any observations, please share it with the rest of the... But you see the patterns, and that's what is happening in the state of Utah. That we are not prepared for it. I will give you some statistics, like in 10 minutes, that this shift in population happened. We have, for instance, Salt Lake School District. 58% of all children who attend public schools are Latinos. 58% of the children in Salt Lake School District. Fascinating, right? The same, well, we don't need to wait 25 years. It's happening in Utah. Okay? The same happened with Ogden School District. In Ogden School District, we have 54% of all children attending public schools being minorities. Okay? We have also in some charter schools, like the Immersion School in the Granite School District, 96% of the children are minorities. Okay? And if you don't want to go too far, you go here to Lincoln Elementary School, right? I believe it's 4 North, 9 West. 98% of all kids there are minorities. It happened in Utah, and it's happened in all areas of our lives. And it took Utah by surprise. Again, and that's why we are still reacting, and that is the word, instead of acting and see what the problem is. And then here again, we can start connecting with the all issues of Utah and the Latino community in the criminal system. It's fascinating. But again, I'm still in the first slide, and we have like 26 to go. So, but again, I just want you to be aware of what is happening, of this dramatic shift in population. The first one to happen in any industrialized nation. The eyes of the world are on us now and saying, let's see what they are going to do. And this is fascinating because other countries, I'm sorry, I detour so much, I talked so much. Other countries have been dissolved because they're in the conflicts. Look at Russia. It dissolved in 47 different nations. Look at Czechoslovakia. All the nations who have these ethnic conflicts are dissolving. And we are the one together because we have a commitment to freedom, to equality, to dignity and respect, and the eyes of the world are on us. What are they going to do in 25 years? The same thing we have been doing all the time. This is a very kind and gentle America. There is space for everybody as soon as we work and respect the basic principles of our nation. What did I do? Latino population group. This is a different kind of demographics. When we talk about Latinos or Hispanics or Mexican Americans or Mexicans or undocumented or Spaniards or Chicanos, we don't agree how to call us, okay? But that's has been a problem, and we are not going to solve it. But what I'm going to tell you is that under the Latino umbrella, We have 22 different nationalities. Okay? That's what is so complicated, meaning that under the name Latinos, there are countries like Mexico, the countries of Central America, right? Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and then all the countries of Latin America, right? Bolivia, Uruguay, Paraguay, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil. And Spain is also with us. So 22 different nations. That's what is so hard to deal with this population. In the 1970s, because the federal government and the state government decided to call us Hispanic for two reasons. They believe that if you speak Spanish and you are Catholic, you are a Hispanic. It's true. And say, well, listen, not everybody in the Hispanic group speaks Spanish. Look at the Brazilians. They speak Portuguese, right? And they don't want to be with us, but the federal government says, yeah, they have to be with you. Welcome. Welcome to a group, okay? Everybody is accepted here. We might be 50 groups. The point here, the largest group among Latinos are the Mexican Americans, okay? So this is different. If we ask which one is the largest minority group in the United States, the answer will be Latinos. And if we ask which one is the largest group among Latinos, are Mexican Americans, about 66% of the population. Then you have Puerto Ricans, 9%, Central and South American, 14.5%, and then you have other Latinos. I know some of you are doing the mathematics and say, if you add all that, it's not 100. It's 104, 105. You are absolutely right, because the statistics on race never matches. Why? Because I can declare many different groups. Okay? In my case, and I use my personal experience as a teaching tool, my mother is French. Okay? My father is a Mexican Native American or an Indian, right? I was married to an Italian. And just imagine my kids. My kids said, Dad, am I a Mexican Italian or a Mexican American? Am I Mexican Indian or an Italian Indian? I said, darling, you are a member of the cosmic race. Cosmic race. You are everything. Okay? And I said that, again, because on the other Latinos, if you are interracial marriage, in the past there were laws, you know that. You know all this better than me. It was the hyper-descent law, that if you were in an interracial marriage, your child was going to be identified as a member of the group that is considered in low esteem. Don't ask me, okay? I played with that. I have seen how it was made. I just don't think it's the most appropriate place to talk about that. Are you with me? Yeah, it's very easy. You say, if there is an interracial marriage between a white person and a black person, obviously the kid was going to be classified under the black category. But if you have an interracial marriage between a Mexican American and a black person, where your child is going to go? Pretty tough. I don't know how the lawyers did it or how the judges decide, but they have to go to court. Like, right? If I were married to a black person and you put my child in the black category, say, why? The Mexican Americans are better, right? But that has been eliminated. The reason for that, this computer is getting tired of me. The reason of that is because, in my case, again, having my mother being French, my father being an Indian, by accident I was born in Mexico and not in a reservation, right? I was raised by an African-American person, one of the African slaves that ran through the Underground Railroad and then ended up at the south of Mexico. So I claim 5 groups because I'm white. Right? I'm very suspicious white. What made me suspicious is my language, my accent, right? But if I deny my whiteness, my mother will take the inheritance from me. So I have to say, yes, I'm white, sure. right? But I'm also Native American, and I cross that category. And I also cross the category Mexican Americans. And I cross the other category. So again, you will see that there is more than 100, because a lot of people do that. And by the way, in the next census, there is going to be another 3 categories for interracial children, which is the group of children that are the largest that are coming into the statistics. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Where are we? Where are the Latinos? Pretty fast. About, my goodness, the numbers are not that clear. But they are clear here. About, 9% are located in Florida, and those are the Cuban Americans, right? Because Cuba is about 90 miles, very close. Okay? Then we have, it's about 13% of the Latinos in the East Coast, mainly in New York, and those are Puerto Ricans. Then we have about 63% of all Latinos in this area, in what is called the Southwest. And you know the reasons why we are here, right? Because all this was Mexico territory, right? Yeah, exactly. And beautiful stories about this, but there are a high concentration of Mexican Americans and Latinos in that area. When I came to Utah 22 years ago, it was very painful to hear that there was not the presence of Latinos or Mexicans in this state. And it was sad because when I grew up, at the age of 3 years old, I knew that Utah was Mexico. Again, because Mexican education is very nationalistic. Let's accept it. The first thing they teach you is, you know the Southwest is ours? Oh, really? Well, okay, tell me more about it. But I knew when I came here and said, no, there is no history until 1847. From 1847, then everything started. And then I said, well, you know, the first people who came here was the Dominguez and Escalante in the expedition of 1776, right? What is important for Mexican Americans in Utah is that the Mexican Indian travel with the friars, with the monks, because they don't know about the geography. They don't know the language of the native people. So the Mexican people, the Mexican Indians, travel with them, okay? And these are not recognized in the historical books, and it's called the fantasy heritage, okay? And that only gives credits to Spaniards. So the present was obvious in the name given to the place they explore. This is fascinating. Let me show you a little bit. These are the names that Dominguez and Escalante gave to the places where they came into Utah. If you look at it, most of them has to do with names of saints and virgins and everything based on the Catholic tradition. Of course, they were Catholics. What is different from Utah and the rest of the Southwest is that in 1847, when our brothers and sisters of the LDS religious came, they changed all the names. Okay? And it took me 3 years just to track place by place, name by name, and I was able to do this chart. So instead of calling Buenaventura, now it's Green River. Instead of calling San Nicolas, now it's Hubble Creek. Why is that important for Latinos in Utah? And that, because if you go to any place in the Southwest, the names are still in Spanish. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Buenaventura, right? Texas. But if you come to Utah, nothing. And then the young generations say, oh, we don't have a history here. Yes, we do. And that is that we have detected in our research that the proliferations of gangs, GA and GS, the groups in west side of town, they start fighting for the territory. Huh? Fascinating. Because if we don't find the names in the land, in the territory, we don't feel this sense of identity. And this is part of the culture, right? Your culture is related to the land. Mexican Americans, Latino don't move around, right? When I was born, my placenta, is that right? Yes. My placenta, I don't know sometimes what I'm talking about. My placenta was buried outside my house. And only means that when I die, and this is a cultural belief, it's not even a religious belief, it's a cultural belief, that the Great Spirit will call me back home to my land, to my homeland, because that's what gives me identity. Well, in Utah, if you erase the markers, the history of the land, the history of the place, then there is no identity. And that's what we are fighting with the students. It's not the same to go to Santa Ventura than goes to Manti or Lehigh. And again, this is not a criticism. I respect history because I'm part of history. It's like people say, well, you criticize the white people. How am I going to criticize them if I'm white? I cannot do that. Well, you don't like Mexican American? Well, I'm one of them. You are prejudiced against the Indians. Listen, look at my face. It doesn't really look European. I look very Indian like my dad. Okay? So, no, it's just a description of facts. It's a description. And what is the point here is the interpretation. But this fact has its implication in the west side of town. When our students or people or young generation wants to feel attached, they want to feel that they belong to Utah, that they are part of Utah. And we teach them, you need to be proud of being born in Utah. It gives you a sense of identity. And when they recover little by little all this history, it makes sense to them. And what is interesting is that there are some professors that, when the Spaniards came, they put the names on big rocks. And now the professors are going and collecting all the rocks. And we are going to be creating a museum just with all these names. Again, to bring history to an equal level with everybody. Again, if you want to participate, give me your observations, because in here it's a matter of interpretation. And I hope you understand. Facts are facts. You cannot dispute them. What you can dispute is, hey, what does it mean? Yeah, what is behind this? How do you understand it? That we can dispute. And at the end, hopefully, come to a conclusion, because that's the only solution we have. We live together. Fascinating to me. When you go to places like Centerville, the little town after city, when you go in, there is a big plate. And you say, this city was created in 1847. I feel so good. Because in 1847, this was Mexico. Right? Right? Remember, the pioneers entered this territory in 1847. This territory became U.S. in 1848 with the War of Guadalupe Hidalgo, with the Treaty of Peace of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Another presentation, another hour. Boy, I'm going to get a good business here. What it is, in the seal of Utah, you have two dates. 1847, the place, the date when the pioneers entered the territory, which again is Mexican territory. So when I see that, it makes me feel part of this, right? And then you have 1896, when we became a State of the Union. What saddened me is that there are some bills submitted for consideration in the legislative session to erase 1847. Why we don't want to do that? But again, probably they're going to put it to vote. Okay? But if the minorities are going to be the majorities, you go by vote, we might win again. We might get it. It's like the revenge, right? Remember the revenge that culturally we do have now in the United States? Because 10 years ago, the majority of us eat French bread. Now what? 97 of us eat tortillas and salsa. So we are even defeating the French in here. So again, it's fascinating. I mean, just give us culture and give us time. And this is something to be considered, okay? Because again, this put our histories together and give us a very strong sense of identity. Okay? I'm going to shift a little bit to the issues of immigration, okay? Because it's the hardest one, the most controversial, and unfortunately, there are no laws for it. Everything can go these days, okay? And there is no promise that in the new presidential elections, we are going to be talking seriously about this. Just want to bring in consideration the highest peak of immigration in the United States. I don't go into detail because, again, by itself, I teach this class one semester, just immigration. I want you to consider that the largest immigration, 1850, okay? This is, again, with the pioneers enter. It's fascinating. In less than 10 months, the population of Utah grew from 3,000 to 75,000 in 10 months. Large immigration, large immigration. Then we have the largest immigration, at the beginning of the 20th century. What is going on here? Okay, World War I. Okay, this is the first time as a nation we go to a war. Most of our males enlisted in the army, and suddenly there was nobody to work in the United States. So we need to bring a large group of people. Also in here, some of you heard about the Mexican Revolution, right? The Bloody Revolution. 15% of the Mexican population came at this time. Okay. Then you keep moving to other, let's go back here. What is going on here? Of all the immigration movement, this is the largest. What is happening in here? Well, the United States suffered or went through a big transformation in the labor force. 89% of us work in the service industry. Everybody here is in the service industry. I am in the service industry. I'm providing a service like you are. We hardly produce anything. Okay? That's why when they say buy America, yeah, you just look at your computer, your Apple computer. Okay, the hard disk is made in Taiwan. The mouse is in Singapore. The whole enchilada is assembled in Mexico. And wow, what is this? But that's what it is. 85% of the population. Let me make a connection here. Because the immigration at this time is not the same immigration than in the 1960s and before. This is a female immigration. 51% of the immigrants are women. Why do you think? Because again, we are criticizing the immigrants and say, well, you are not like us. Of course not. You are not Americanizing like us. Of course not. Let me give you an example, pretty quick. In Los Angeles, okay? If you go to downtown, 92% of the properties in downtown belongs to the Japanese. So the Mexican Latinos work for those companies. How they are going to be Americanized? They are being what? Japanized. You understand? And this is the beauty of communication, education, sharing of information. So we are at the same level. I'm not going to be Americanized. I'm not. Because the conditions are not the same. First of all, again, it's a female movement. Why is that? Why females coming? Because, didn't I say at the beginning of these presentations, all women are working. Who do you think is going to be doing the job than they did before? The immigrants, the women immigrants. It's very different. And so you have, and the same patterns follow for Utah. Incredible. Remember, this is the time when we start building I-15. Remember that? Remember that mess, right? 56% of the workers were Mexicans. We didn't bring the issue of undocumented yet, okay? Then we jump into the Olympic Games. Remember that? 2002, yeah? 87% of all the facilities were built by Mexicans. And then if you go to Park City, right? The proliferation of the hotels and restaurants. Remember the big deal with the rate at the airport? You should remember that. 75 undocumented workers were caught working in the security areas of the airport. And I do have a wonderful film, and I will recommend it. Just it's about 50 minutes. That is an eye-opening documentary. It was done by Peter Jennings. Remember him from ABC? Unfortunately, he died 4 years ago. He came to Utah. He was fascinating with us because in 2000, Utah was the third state in the nation with the largest number of immigrants. Forget about Chicago, San Francisco, San Antonio. No, Utah, Salt Lake. That's where we're coming from. And I said that, again, because in Utah the same thing happened. Olympic Games, right? Construction I-15. More importantly, we declare Utah as a paradise for tourism. Look at the statistics for Zion Park. Look at the statistics for downtown. The tourism increase. So we need the labor force. We don't produce it. In my university, the University of Utah, we don't teach class about janitor 1 and janitor 2 or advanced janitors. We don't prepare people. We don't. And in fact, in November, Park City has 500 applications to fill. I brought it to my students. You complain about no jobs. Here are the applications. What are they for? Janitors, hotels, cooks, right? So, well, I don't do that kind of job. I say, I know you don't do it. That's why you are at the university. But again, it's all this big economic boom of the state of Utah. And it was mainly reflected in the housing industry. Okay? That's what it brought a large number of immigrants. When I came here, 1990, there were about 60,000 Latinos. Okay? Now there are 380,000. In 20 years, this exploded. Okay? But again, it's the response to the economic mechanism and to the characteristics of this nation. We hardly produce anything, but we sell services. All the work by data, right? Information, everything we produce for the world. Pretty fast, okay? I just want to highlight here illegal immigration or undocumented immigration, okay? This, again, is a term that a lot of people dispute. They don't want it to call illegals because they think we are not illegals. A person who is illegal is a person who breaks the law. If a person in Utah go through a red light, we never call it illegal. Okay? No, say, okay, I understand where you're coming from. But the fact is the same, that look at undocumented immigration is one of the largest features of these new trends, mainly, again, because there are not law in places. Okay? Every state tried to create the laws, but then the federal court said no. Give you an example, Proposition 187. Remember that in California? Amazing. What California proposed, and it passed 51%. It proposed that all the children of undocumented parents born in the United States were not U.S. citizens. Remember that big mess? And the children of undocumented workers don't have the right to receive healthcare services or education. It passed. And then the federal court said, no, you cannot do that. It's anti-constitutional. The Constitution said that everybody who is born in the United States and its territory is a U.S. citizen. Back to California. At the same time, same happened with some laws that we proposed from Utah. Didn't go. Okay, so but this is where it's coming from. I need to go fast. I need to go fast. This is fascinating, but why immigration is an issue? Why it was not before? That is the question that, and I think most of you deal with issues of immigrants, immigrant cases, undocumented labor. Well, the issues and the crisis because we say there are too many of them. Okay, let me give you an example. The United States, the federal government only provide 500 visas to Mexico per year. 500. According to the statistics, 4,000 Mexicans cross the border per day. Okay? So the United States, the federal say, no, I'm not going to give you visas. There are too many Mexicans already here. Yeah, about 16 million of them are undocumented. So they don't give to the Mexican government more. They are taking our jobs. That's another issue, right? And again, I wish you can share later in the future this documentary with Peter Jennings. It's called In Search of a Homeland, which is the case of undocumented workers in Utah. I think the audience will be fascinated by the issues. Service they are using more than they pay for. This is only a stereotype. It's not true. And it was corroborated in 2003 when President Bush discovered that there were about $35 billion in Social Security that nobody reclaimed. And then they found out, where is this money coming from? From the undocumented workers. Why they don't reclaim it? They are not going to because they get cut. Okay? So President Bush proposed to President Fox, I'll give you the money. And then the other countries, Central America, say, well, they are not only Mexicans. You are assuming that they are Mexican, but they are Salvadorians, Guatemalans. But again, it's not true that they use more money than what they pay. Okay? And this is, people say undocumented workers don't pay taxes. Well, when I go to these stores, Smith's or Dan's, I don't see a line for undocumented workers who don't pay taxes on food. No, they do. They do. It's just, again, the general conceptions. This is a trouble because, unfortunately, undocumented workers became a synonym of being criminals or terrorists. Remember our conflicts with the towers in New York, right? And they make that relationship. The terrorists are coming from the southern border. And that didn't bring a good reputation. The other one is fertility. They come here just to have kids. No. Kids in the United States are very expensive. And that is the other reason why white women are not having children. According to the last estimate, before the child is born in the United States, you spend $14,000 before your child see the light. Children are very expensive because, again, the healthcare services and, the prenatal care and everything that goes with it, special nutrition, increases the value. Okay? There is something that you need to consider too, because there is another argument in here that for every immigrant that the United States brings, is save about $65,000. You understand why is that, right? Because these immigrants come at the age of work, which is 18 to 45, right? But they come here already willing to enter. The United States didn't put in education, didn't put in pre-care, so we are saving money. This is a different argument. Okay, I'm throwing you a lot of arguments because you are going to hear that from your clients or from people with different backgrounds, right? They are essentially different from us. who are Americans. Well, yeah, they are different. It's true. I told you, right? Immigration has a color. Why? Again, because we are looking for very cheap labor force. Not educated labor force like in the past, okay? Because that's very costly. Let's see if we can, okay. Let's see the situation of undocumented workers. An average family income in the United States per family is about $48,000. For documented family, it's about the same. Undocumented families on average make $27,000. You see a difference? How much we save? But again, if this is a very interesting because John Huntsman Jr., he really supported a process through which the undocumented workers became citizens, or at least legal residents. He said, as governor, we look at immigration pragmatically, right? You cannot wish them, the immigrants, away. They are not going to go, okay? How many we have in Utah? About 90,000, okay? Undocumented workers. They are not going to go away. You cannot unplug them from the services they provide. To try to do so will have a deleterious or harmful effect on an economy. The hope is that this generation of dishwasher is the next generations of landowners. Very smart statement. Because again, it reminds Latinos, land, sacred place. Okay? And in fact, when you talk to Latinos, they don't think they are immigrants. They are telling you, I'm returning to Zion. Huh? You know where I'm coming from. They are using the Book of Mormon to justify the presence. We left 700 years ago. We are returning to our sacred land. This is our sacred land. This is our homeland. This is the land of the ancestors. And as soon as the government said, landowners, Latinos, we belong here. We are here. But again, median household income in Utah, again, to see the disparities. Sometimes it's helpful to you understand the conditions of your clients. On average in Utah, the salary is $55,000. For Caucasians or white people, it's about $52,000. Then on third place is Asian Americans, $37,000. They do pretty well, the Asian American people. Then you have African Americans, $35,000. Okay, the population of black people in Utah is not even 1%. It's 0.08. Not even 1%. We have an overrepresentation of Native people, Native Americans. Remember that we say in the nation is 1%? In Utah it's 2%, because we have 5 reservations, okay, in the state. So, but African Americans do very well. Then comes Latinos with about $30,000 per year, okay? This is a big issue for Latinos, because remember what we are saying now, that the children of undocumented that comes to institution of higher education, you deal with that, they need to pay out-of-state tuition. At the University of Utah, in-state tuition is $12,000, out-of-state tuition is $31,000. For a family who makes $29,000, it's impossible, right? But that's what they make. And Native Americans or Indians make about $27,000, and this is in the state of Utah. So there is big disparities here. Excellent, this information. We talk about the shift in population. Oh my goodness. Again, in Salt Lake School District, we already have 58% of all the students being minorities. Okay? That is going to be requiring a very different educational system. I will address that in a minute. San Juan District, 57% of all the students minorities. Granite District, 56%. Ogden, 54%. Okay? Large populations coming. Charter school, the Uinta River High School, 96% minorities, and you had the dual immersion academy with 87% of the kids. The shift happened in Utah. And if it went to education, it's going to go to another areas, okay? And you might be facing this in the criminal system, okay? It happened in the whole revitalization of the West Side, especially of Ross Park. Hopefully we'll have time for that. Per pupil expenditure in Utah, in the nation, 10,000. In Utah, 6,000. It's about 40% less, okay? This is important because, again, this is the budget for minority population. And at this point, we should look at education of these children, not just for the moral or ethical perspective, from the economic perspective. If we don't educate these minority kids, we will not be able to compete in the global market. So we need to do something in regard to education. In terms of the pupil-teacher ratio, in the nation, 16 students per teacher. In Utah, 23. Okay? And this has been a long history. This is another class on education, another semester. And we try to do, because a lot of people argue, and I think with our foundation, that the state spend less money in minorities than with white students in the whole Utah public school system. I only found that the difference is minimal. It's about $334, okay? And for the white students, we spend $6,326, for minorities, $599, okay? I don't know, there is so much. I don't know it to jump all this, because there is, really, just want to call your attention. No, I get despair because I prepared so much and I have planned, and I don't think we're going to have time to do, at the end of this section, I was going to do the citizenship test. We still can do it. And the reason we do it is because I do it in my classroom. 85% of my students fail it. And we're talking about college students, okay? And then I bring them to reflect about it. What does that mean? And it will be interesting to do it here. Yeah, this is a matter of time, and see how many of you pass it. Yes?
I heard your discussions about the differences between East Side and West Side men.
Vamos, yes.
And I think that would be of great interest to us if you could.
Vamos rápido to that one. The cultural divide. Okay? Listen, the majority of misunderstanding comes because of cultural differences. I can give you a lot of personal anecdotes. Okay? The very first time that I was going to go to jail in the United States was because culture. It was in Massachusetts. It was January. It was snowing. I was carrying books to bring back to the library. Okay? In Mexico, in Central America, books are sacred instruments. Okay? Because it reflects the wisdom of the people who wrote it. And it also implies that you need to take care of that because you are going to be inherited to your older brothers and sisters. So you treat them with respect. It was snowing. I have 10 books under my jacket. The police stopped me. Drop what you have there. How are you going to drop books on the snow? They get wet. Imagine that. You don't mistreat the book. Drop it. We're going to give you 10. We're going to count to 10. No, sir. Then a lot of patrols come. Drop it. No, sir. When they come out, I say, okay, I'll drop it. He came out of the car, okay? Very difficult. It's cultural, okay? The issue gets even more complicated when you bring culture. Majority of Latinos play soccer, and I want you to think about that. My daughter played soccer in both leagues, in the Anglo-American League, soccer, and in the Mexican League. When we go on Saturdays and Fridays to the Anglo-American League, there are no policemen. When we go to the Mexican League on Sundays, there's policemen. And you don't understand that a police person by itself, cultural speaking, it makes me sweat. I'm serious. I see a police person and my body reacts, I get hot. It's because my experience, cultural experience with the police in other countries. We don't trust the police. Our police is our enemy, right? We run into all this history of corruption. So we go into the same process, okay? We go to a soccer game. Hopefully you understand soccer. My daughter is a little bit physical. Went very strong against an Anglo-American player. And the ref gave him a yellow card, right? And the Anglo-Saxon player said, "Sir, give her a green card." You know my daughter. Unfortunately, she used her arms. Painful, because she was punished for 1 year not to play soccer. She was cited, but the other player got nothing. I said, how can this be possible? Patience. Patience. We need to understand cultural differences, okay? I'm in my office, 3 o'clock in the morning. The police come, and it was summer. I had my shorts, and they thought I was the janitor. I said, well, you have your ID. I said, ID? Yeah, are you a janitor? I said, I'm not, but I could be if you pay me as much as they pay me as being a professor. I will be happy to be a janitor, no problem. It's culture, okay? Because they are not expecting me to work at that time. And we can see these differences. When the police got to a Latino, Latinos love to talk. If you approach it and then you just run away to your computer, the Latino is going to feel offended. Come on, let me talk to you. We talk so much. Our culture is expressed to oral culture. Everything, you know, the way we move our hands, the way we talk. Have you seen me using notes? It's everything in here. Everything in here is oral tradition. So when I get caught in traffic and the police come and doesn't want to talk to me, I get pretty upset. So let me explain you. Those, again, things need to change. And we see those big changes coming in what is a cultural divide. Quick. It's a boundary in society that separates community because economic status, opportunities, and norms and are so different that they have substantially different psychologies. You think very different from me because your economic position, because the opportunity you have had, because, again, your race, okay? Yeah, you have different psychology, okay? And I'll give you an example. When I invite my Caucasian American professors to my house, they go to the backyard and they start telling me what to do. If you build a house here, your house will increase the price, and if you make a fence, you guys, leave me alone. If I bring the Mexican Americans and Latinos to my house, this is so nice, bring more beers, and let's celebrate. But you see the culture, it's obvious, right? It's just the way we are. You don't see time the same way I see time. You don't see the space. Try this. Try to talk to an Anglo-American face-to-face, okay? And you start here, and you just try to approach a little bit, and then you're going to end up in downtown because they don't allow you to get into the sense of private property of a space. And the Mexicans, they hug, they shake hands in different ways. Physicality is different, it's culture. The problem is when these cultures come into communities, because those cultural divides are caused by cultural difference that hinder interaction and exchange between people of different cultures. we do have different cultures, okay? Yes, I don't eat cold cereal in the morning. I throw up and I do that. It's not an offense. Because I know you don't eat chilaquiles and salsa and huevos in the morning for breakfast. It takes you a long time to do it. Okay? That doesn't mean that we are so radically different that we cannot talk. We are the same. But we need to go over the cultural divide, especially in Utah. People believe that the main differences are provided because religion. No, it's not religion, it's the culture. Well, the LDS people don't go to the park on Sunday. Why are you so upset? Go enjoy. There is more space for us. Don't get upset. But again, if we go to all these traditions, when I go to a party, and I know this is a stereotype, the only thing I eat is yellow, green yellow. Well, bring enchiladas. What is the problem with you? But again, this cultural divide is what separates us. And if we understand culture based on perception of space, time, physicality, ways of talking, again, you tie my hands and I cannot talk, right? I just can't because it's the way. At the age of 3 years old, Mexicans already are competing on debate, right? And see who can talk more and longer. My goodness. So traditional interpretation in the past between the West and the East, because it still persists. The eastern side were the markers. The west side was a place inhabited by the other, the one who is not like me, different. And the minorities, the Mexicans, the poor, the immoral, and the outlaws. And you can say, this has been proved. Well, yes, and I want to talk to that, but there is no time because I just read the last report on the criminal justice system. The west side was a static place. It's always the same, never change. Poor bunch people, they never get out of poverty. People living at the margins of a dominant Anglo-Mormon center, right? Mormons in the east, other religions in the west. The ones who live in the other side of the tracks, okay? And they are trapped in a tangle of pathological behaviors and with no possibility of getting out. That is the perception of the west side of town. So, and what about the east? Well, in the east, it's suburban. It's for the upper middle class. It's, again, for the Mormons in position of power. Don't feel offended if we call it Mormons. Okay, among Latinos, if you say LDS, they don't know what you're talking about, so you have to tell the Mormons. Okay, and contacts, flu, and transition, right? Because it's upper mobility. They come in and out. They might live in the east side, but then they move to Eagle Federal Heights or the other residential areas. The place of raising healthy families, and a place reserved for Anglo-Americans who obey the law and live exemplary lives. And it's true. Okay? And it's made on institutions. Just give me an example. 1899? 1998. Whatever. When I came to Utah, a long time ago, I want to live in the east side of town. I want to live in the east side of town. So the realtor took me a tour, and the first thing that he did was to bring me to the west side of town. And I said, sir, what about the other side, the tracks? I said, no, you cannot afford that. That's not for you. I said, oh, thank you. I'll go and buy my own. But that's what it was prevailing, this divide. So it's changing. You, probably the majority of you remember Judge Andrew Valdez, who deliberately decided to live in the west side of town. He said, the diversity of the west side is what gives character and energy. It is not just for ethnic groups, the rich and the poor. It's all different groups. You have the educated, you have the uneducated, you have the convicts and the perfect citizens, you have the immigrants and the citizens. The West Side is a reflection of America. He started a movement, and a lot of Latino professors, I'm lying, there are not many, some of the Latino professors decide to live in the West Side of town. Okay? And then it comes the whole gentrification. If you go to Rose Park, if you go to the track to North Temple, it's beautiful. Okay? With the whole decorations they did. This is probably some of you know Ruby Chacon. She said, I no longer let the people define me and who I am. The most important thing is that I never again is somebody to define me or my community. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed anymore. So there is this sense of we belong. We are part of you. We are here together. This is the place for everybody. We were here 7,000 years ago. We are here, and we are going to be here. Okay? Because that is the goal, the call for America. It's the place, like President Bush used to say, I love that. This is the gentle and kind America. This is the America who opened the arms to everybody. This is the America who all the world is expecting us to see, what are we going to do in the next 20 years? This is the America when we can fulfill the dreams. And behind this dark skin, there is a dream. There is a dream for justice. There is a dream for equality. There is the dream with all of us come together and sit down at the same table. Thank you so much.